Welcome to Women's Health Unwrapped with Nicola Farndell, a weekly show dedicated to empowering women to unlock the secrets of true health and vitality. Join us as we unwrap what healthy living really means with guest experts and real-life stories to help you get clear on the power of building sustainable, healthy habits without the overwhelm and confusion you feel right now. It's time to strip back and lay out the truth about why taking better care of yourself is the answer to the happy, vibrant life you're striving so hard to create. Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Women's Health Unwrapped. I'm really looking forward to the conversation I'm going to have and share with you on today's episode. I'm chatting to Emily Courtney, who is someone I met a few months ago, and I've been in touch with her. We've had a couple of conversations together, and I've been watching how she's sharing her message on social media because she has a very important topic that she supports women with. Now, Emily is a health visitor, and she's going to share a little bit about that professional journey and role that she does. But what she is advocating is the knowledge of menopause, especially for younger women and younger mums. So we're going to explore Emily's own story of going into premature menopause, which is such a fascinating story, and one that I think is really emotional as well, and definitely affects many more women than what we realise. So welcome to the podcast, Emily.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Nicola. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah, you're really welcome. And I'm, as I said, excited to have this conversation because the way that you share your story and what's happened to you, I think is something many women of any age really can relate to. But, you know, especially for women who are young and, you know, haven't given menopause a thought, which a lot of women don't because they just push it aside thinking it's an old age thing. And we know that isn't the case. And whether you have premature menopause or not, it's an awareness that we want all women to have, even, you know, very young women. But before we get into that, I just want to check in with you to find out a little bit about how you support yourself with what your most impactful healthy habit is.
Oh, for me, my most impactful healthy habit would definitely be looking after myself in terms of my well-being, but mainly just putting myself at the top. That's something I've definitely learned the hard way, I think, through this journey that I've had. Obviously, we'll get into that more in a minute, but I had 3 children under 3. 2 of them are twins. 2 of them also have additional needs. So it's been really hard. And then obviously I had a really early menopause and everything that comes with. So I've definitely learned the hard way that you absolutely have to put yourself first, whether that's just sitting down watching Love Island with a cup of tea halfway through the day, or making sure I walk the dog on my own, or just sitting on my own in silence. That is just so crucial to me now every single day, and something that I always go on about to anyone that I talk to about early menopause.
Oh, brilliant. And you know, I'm such an advocate as well of putting your own oxygen mask on first. And sadly, so many women only realise that when things have gone terribly wrong, which is part of your story. It's certainly my story as well. And so we want other women not to hit that wall and have that happen to them before realising, yeah, actually you do matter and you do need to take care of yourself. And as you said, knowing what that looks like as well. So yeah, I love the Love Island in an afternoon thing. I'm not a Love Island fan at all. My guilty pleasure is selling Sunset and selling the OC. I love those.
I just love anything you don't have to concentrate on very hard. But you know, that is so important, because as a health visitor, whenever we go and ask mums, you know, how are they, and if they're struggling, I always say, well, what have you done for yourself this week? And it's always nothing. It's always nothing. And they get to this point where they're just broken, and it's just like there's so many little things we could do to stop us getting to that point, which is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's the little things, isn't it? It's things that may seem inconsequential when you think about them. You know, maybe even just like taking 5 minutes to have that cuppa and pause when you get through the door after work on an evening, or reaching out to a friend, have that phone call once a week. Small things that you can easily skip, you know, and push aside and miss the impact of, but when you do them and they add up over time, it's that compound effect, isn't it, of how much they're supporting you. And I think that's a challenge we've got with how busy many of our lives are, that we can just, cast aside small things that together would have a massive impact on how well we feel.
Definitely.
So let's dig into your story, Emily. I'd love you to kind of take us back to when there were first signals, because I know you had some challenges with your menstrual cycle and reproductive health. So yeah, how did that all kind of happen, and how did that make you feel, and where did that lead you to with the pregnancies you had as well?
Yeah, so my story is different, I think, to a lot of women that have POI, which is premature ovarian insufficiency. So that's essentially where your ovaries stop functioning normally before 40. I didn't have any symptoms or changes to my period or fertility struggles, which is the most kind of common things that young women would find. I actively sought advice because my mum had a very early menopause too, in her 30s. And I'd always had it on the radar that this is just a bit weird, because there was just no information then, like 10 years ago, about menopause. And I just wanted to know more. So I was back and forth to the GP multiple times from like quite a young age, just asking and just trying to get more specialist advice. But I was always declined and just said, just have children young. But I was like 18, going to university to be a nurse. I didn't want to have a baby. I also didn't have a boyfriend. Not that I would if I had a boyfriend have a baby that young, but it was just definitely not the right advice for me. So I met my husband still young, I was about 23, and he fortunately is a doctor, and I do think that really helped me be heard. So I don't think that's right, that you should only be heard if you're a doctor, but I feel like, unfortunately, doctors seem to respect doctors a bit more, and they did really listen. So I took him along with me, and they said, okay, yeah, we don't know enough about this, I'll refer you to fertility. So we went to fertility, and we were expecting, the same advice we've always had, just try for a baby in a few years and see what happens. But I had some blood tests, I had a scan of my ovaries, and based on the family history, they actually managed to diagnose me that this really isn't looking good. This is probably coming much quicker than you expected, and if you want a baby, it's now or never. And I did start having some counselling to use donor eggs. So it was a massive shock to go to this appointment and be told this news, and I was absolutely devastated, as you can imagine. And the whole focus was on fertility. And I think that's really common for young women. There's such a focus on fertility because that obviously is so devastating and means so much, that the long-term health risks, the symptoms, the period changes, all of that was just not in my brain. So we managed to conceive my daughter, luckily, and everything was fine. A few years later, I tried again, and I had a miscarriage, which was very distressing for any woman who has a miscarriage. Obviously, it's a huge impact for your emotional and your physical health. And then when I felt emotionally ready enough to try again, I was no longer ovulating. So that was kind of my signal that, okay, something's not right. I didn't have any symptoms that I was aware of, but then I wasn't educated then. So I'm sure I did have symptoms, but I didn't put two and two together. I paid to go and see a fertility specialist who had a special interest in POI. So she was like the perfect person for me. And with a little bit of help, I managed to conceive my twins. And she wrote a plan to my GP, saying, Emily's got POI, she's managed to conceive. As soon as she's had the twins, she needs to go on HRT because of the health risks, because of the quality of life, because of, it's really important. And for some reason or another, that was completely ignored. So I had the twins. Everything seemed quite good when I just had them. We were in kind of a little bubble. Obviously, my husband was around. I felt really grateful that I had them. Don't get me wrong, really stressful because I had a 2-year-old baby twins. But I felt quite at peace with the diagnosis from that point of view. When the twins were 8 weeks, and I know exactly when because it was the day we went into lockdown, the first lockdown, everything just kind of fell apart for me. I really noticed that all those normal like postpartum symptoms were getting worse, and I was experiencing lots of other symptoms that I didn't realize were menopause because, like I said, you just associate it with the hot flushes, don't you? And nobody had warned me. Although I had a fantastic fertility and menopause specialist, we were also so focused on getting these babies out safely that we hadn't really considered the symptoms. And she'd definitely done the plan, which was brilliant, but we hadn't actually had that discussion of what things could look like for me. I went to the GP. Well, I phoned the GP. Obviously, you couldn't get a face-to-face appointment, multiple times. Was constantly told that it couldn't be this. You've just had children. It can't be. It's obviously your diagnosis must be wrong. And then I spoke to the specialist in the practice, who also dismissed me. And I tried, I think I tried almost 20 times, because I ended up complaining and going back in and listening to all these phone calls. And I was really shocked at how much I tried. I don't really know why I waited, but after about a year, I decided to pay and go and see the private specialist again, who obviously started me on HRT straight away, and I felt better within a few days. But the symptoms that I had when those boys were babies were absolutely devastatingly terrible. I had, I've written it down because my brain fog is still bad. My worst symptom was nausea, which I wouldn't have associated with menopause then. My husband's a doctor. He didn't have a clue. My mum thought I was like, is she dying? Has she got cancer? Has she got bowel cancer? What's going on? I would be bedbound every afternoon with nausea. And now I can see that's because I was relying so much on coffee all morning, and that was triggering my symptoms. I had really severe palpitations, brain fog, night sweats, hot flushes, rage, like really sore muscles and joints to the point where I couldn't get up the stairs. I was going on my bum, like a really poor pelvic floor function, such heavy periods that I couldn't leave the house. Obviously, I understand it was challenging because lots of these symptoms are the same as postpartum symptoms, but the fact that I already had a diagnosis, things were getting worse. And there were lots of those symptoms in there that you wouldn't normally associate with postpartum symptoms. So things like nausea is not a common postpartum symptom, palpitations, not being able to sleep, because normally the women that I see as a health visitor, are so knackered that if their baby's sleeping, they can sleep. Whereas when you can't sleep because of your hormones, but you're getting woken up all night, it's physically and utterly exhausting. And that was just so difficult for me when I was trying to raise these children. Once I had started on HRT, I did feel better, but as you know, it's not just a take this and you'll be fine. It's been such a roller coaster, and just kind of learning to love the new me and letting go of that person I was before, because I've had children since then as well. So I've changed so much physically and emotionally, that the whole experience of menopause has kind of come at that journey as well. So yeah, it has been a real challenge, and it hasn't just been plain sailing since I've been on HRT. I've had previous diagnosis of osteopenia, which I've actually managed to reverse, which is brilliant. I've had real struggles with progesterone, and got such severe bloating that I got a hernia through an appendicectomy scar. So it really hasn't been easy. But I do feel so fortunate that things are so much better for me now, because I know for lots of women, they just can never get heard, and maybe they can't afford private care, and then what do you do? Because if you're not lucky with your GP, it can be so difficult.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing the story. There's so much in there. One of the things I just wanted to check on was, how old were you when you first went with your husband to say, look, my mum's had this history, can I get some help on this, before you started trying for a baby?
24.
And that's just such a young age. As you said, I found that really interesting, that the focus was all about the reproductive piece, not about, I think, two things. One, understanding what menopause means. Well, three actually. I think two, then what menopause means when you are experiencing it prematurely, or can experience it prematurely. But then three, that mental piece to it, as you see, that mindset of accepting that maybe you weren't ever going to have children, and maybe you were going to start to have these changes, which, for someone in their very early 20s is a really scary thing, especially, as you say, when, even now, yes, we've got much more knowledge coming out about menopause, which is fantastic, but for many women, there's still a huge lack of knowledge, and there's still definitely lack of understanding correctly about it anyway. But going back those few years, it was even less so than it is
Yeah.
now. So yeah, you're right that there's so much emphasis on being able to reproduce as a female, but there's then this whole other mental aspect to it, and self-acceptance thing, and that self-compassion and support to have to deal with a diagnosis like that. And as you say, that just wasn't ever mentioned, was it?
No, it wasn't. Yeah, and it's really hard, isn't it? Because with women with POI, 5 to 10% of women do conceive naturally because you do have that fluctuation, and your ovarian function can come back, but there's still a complete misunderstanding of that. And there's also so many women that do have small children, because women are having children older that then go into normal menopause. And I feel like so much is put down to just having a baby, and that's why you're knackered, or that's why you're this, and that's what I got told over and over again. And I see it a lot as a health visitor, where things are just put down to just having babies. And I'm like, actually, this isn't normal. This isn't, like, you should be enjoying your babies, and you should be able to carry them around in a sling without feeling like your body's going to fall apart. And you should be able to, leave the house without having periods that are so heavy that you can't use like sanitary products because it's going to completely flood that. And that's something that has really changed like how I work as a health visitor, and like basically everything now that I do is just trying to make that awareness for people that have small children, because I think we're still in that minority. Although, like you say, menopause is getting much more aware, I think younger women are still definitely left out of the conversation, and definitely the ones with little children, because again, it's just so, well, you've got a baby, so be happy, that's why you're worried about menopause. But it's not just reproducing, it's so much more than that. And if you're not well physically and emotionally, you can't raise your children how you want to, and that has such a massive knock-on effect for the next generation.
Yeah, and premature and early menopause are much more common than what women realise. With premature menopause, which, as you say, is the POI, that's something that can affect around 1% of women, isn't it? So under the age of 40, 1 in 1,000 women. Is it under the age of 40 or under the age of 30?
So it's 1 in 1,000 under 30 and 1 in 100 under 40. But actually, the new research shows that it's actually a lot higher, and it's 3 to 4% before 40. So that is even more common than we thought. And I think that's only going to increase as women are more aware of what's going on for them, and medical professionals get more understanding.
Yeah, so premature menopause is much more common than many women realise. And we've also got early menopause, which is before the age of 45. And, I think we can look at menopause, I have done in the past, as being something that happens to old women. We know now 50 itself isn't old, 40 certainly isn't old. And it's raising that awareness of noticing these changes and shifts, and that it can happen at a much earlier age. And I think we are seeing a lot of a rise in fertility problems. Women are waiting, as you mentioned, longer to have children than we've ever done before. It's very normal to have a first child in your early 40s even, but we are seeing increasing fertility, which is probably a whole other conversation. But there's probably a lot of people out there who are potentially leading up to a premature menopause, who don't know about that, but maybe then only when they start to try for a baby and have struggles with their fertility and conceiving, that they then find that out. And as you said in your story, that's a huge shock when you're given a diagnosis like that at such an early age. And I think one of the things I wanted to explore with you, which is what you now are doing, advocating for awareness with young women and mothers, is how does someone who is quite a new mum, whether it's a first child or not, it doesn't matter, but someone who has a young baby or maybe even a toddler, and things just don't feel normal, how do you differentiate, as you said, between those common postpartum type symptoms a new mum can have, and something different that possibly is linked to those fluctuating hormones that are part of perimenopause?
It can be really, really difficult, and we often talk about this on the group, is that what's like normal for being a mum of a toddler and what's hormones, because I'd say most mums with toddlers are knackered or feeling overwhelmed or struggling. They might be struggling to sleep, so they may be up in the night, or they may still be having really heavy periods. But it's knowing like what's normal for you, and unfortunately it's seeking help and not being dismissed and told that it's normal because you've got a little child. I think if it's straight after you've given birth, unfortunately your midwife and health visitor have no training in menopause or hormonal changes or anything, which is, I feel, such a gap, because we are like the main professional and for children under 5. So all those women that we see, but anyway, that's a whole other debate. It's just definitely knowing, how, especially if it's your second baby, because it might be as you're getting older, you'll know how you felt the first time. If it's your first baby, your symptoms that you have postpartum, so things like your night sweats, your heavy periods, pelvic floor functioning, although that can need quite a lot of work after birth anyway. Like, things should be improving, they shouldn't be getting worse. So you wouldn't expect to, when you 8 weeks postnatally, your night sweats may still be there, but a year they shouldn't. And it's really important as well to be like, is something else going on? Because not everything is menopause, and that's really important as well. So if you are having things like palpitations or feeling really anxious or feeling low in mood or struggling with periods or anything really, it doesn't necessarily mean menopause. It could be that you need just a bit more support, you've just had a baby, and just being really open to different possibilities of things that could be going on for you. I think that's really important as well. In terms of as they get older, we, on our membership, we have a symptom diary alongside a what I've been doing that day diary, because if you've been chasing your 2-year-old around soft play all day, you're going to be knackered. Most people would be, or they might be aching and their legs might ache. But if you've had quite a chill day at home and then the next day your legs are really aching, your muscles are sore, your joints are really stiff, that's might be an indication that, okay, maybe this is a hormonal thing. If you've had a really good night's sleep and you haven't been woken up from your children, but you wake up feeling like you haven't been to sleep and, struggling to get out of bed because you're so like stiff and sore, those things aren't normal. So I think it's really important to kind of keep a diary of your symptoms alongside your life, so you can try and correlate anything that's going on. And then you can also take that with you to your GP. And it can be quite good evidence that not everything is, I'm knackered because I've got a child, because actually maybe you had a weekend away with your husband and you didn't even have your child, but you still had loads of symptoms.
That's such good advice at every age as well, isn't it, to monitor and try and track your symptoms in some way. Emily's mentioned a group membership here, which I'll get her to share details of right at the end. But Emily's founded this incredible group to support young mothers who are experiencing menopause. And in that group, like, what kind of age range is in there, Emily? Is it a really wide spread of different ages?
Yeah, it is. And obviously, like, 30 is probably at the starting age and can be up to mid to late 40s, because the group is not just for POI and early menopause. Like we said earlier, women are having children older than ever before. So it's currently at 30.9. That is the oldest that's ever been recorded. However, as a health visitor, I would say, as you said, the most average age I think I see is nearer 40 for your first baby. So there are lots of women on the group who are not early menopause, but they are menopausal with little children. And it's really hard to find like that camp for you. And that's definitely what I found. So the fertility side is amazing. Obviously, you don't want to be in that camp because it's awful, but you've got so many great support options. You can really find that community and like be encouraging of each other and support it. And then you've got the menopause support, which again, amazing. But it's not somewhere I felt I could go. And I struggled with the early menopause and the POI groups because I knew I was fortunate to have children, but that didn't mean that my struggles weren't valid, and it didn't mean I didn't need somewhere. So that's why I decided to found the group, so that it was a place where you could be completely guilt-free and just be able to say, I can't cope with my child's tantrums today, because every time my toddler throws himself on the floor in Sainsbury's, I have a hot flush and I can't cope, and I can't fight him in the car because my muscles are so sore and I'm panicking. And that feeling of panic, I think, is really common. And just having somewhere you can go where people really get you is something that I found was really needed.
And I love that you've created that safe, supportive community. So that brings us on to caring for yourself and supporting yourself, which was the habit you shared right at the beginning. And one of the things you really try to help these mums with young children to do is know that they have to put themselves first. So when you're talking about this in your group and in the work you do, you know, that can be a really difficult message to get across when someone's possibly sitting there shaking their head going, how am I going to do that when I've got XYZ to do every single day? So how do you help them to see the importance of that?
Well, I think, like you've said on a previous podcast, it doesn't have to be like a day at the spa. It can just be like, how do you talk to yourself? Because, like, we are our own worst critic and we hear our voice more than anyone else's. So if we're telling, so there's a massive tractor going past. If we're telling, you know, ourselves all day, like, I can't do this, I'm the worst mum, like, and that's something I hear so much, which literally breaks my heart, is that I can't be the mum I want to be because I can't cope with these symptoms. And it's so heartbreaking because I know how that feels, like, genuinely, I completely know, but I will never talk to myself like that again. I never give myself a hard time. Like, if I lost it with the kids, I know that's not great, and I didn't want to shout at them, but do you know what? I'm only human. I am dealing with so much, and that's what I try and really, like, change their thinking, that we are doing our best, and that's to be honest, why they're all on that group. So these are the women that they know they're doing their best and they really want to do their best. So just changing how we talk to ourselves, and just be so kind to yourself. Like, look at what you're managing. Like, what would you say to your child? You wouldn't tell them they're useless and they can't do anything, right? You would tell them that they are doing the absolute best they can, and that's all you can ask for, really.
And you know that I talk about this mindset piece being such an important part of creating a healthy and thriving life, because it's easy when you think about health, not necessarily easy, but it's easy to just go to the food and the exercise pieces and feel overwhelmed by that and think, oh, you know, if I can just eat better, then I'm going to feel better, which hopefully when you change your diet, you do feel better, but it doesn't create overall strong health, because a massive part of that is that mindset piece and how you support and show yourself compassion. Because if we're beating ourselves up all of the time, then regardless of how nutritious the food is we eat, we aren't going to be healthy, because we're putting ourselves under a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety and pressure, and that leads to lack of sleep and just unhappiness and all of the ripple effects of that. Whereas the opposite is then true, isn't it? When you are being kind to yourself and supporting yourself, that ripples out and helps you to make decisions that then, like you said, mean you don't feel guilty if you've shouted at the kids, or when you have to take an hour out in the afternoon and just not do anything because you are absolutely exhausted. Because, yeah, a lot of us have that script running internally that's just about guilt and, you know, expectation of what we should be doing to be a good mother and to be a good woman and normal and all of those things.
And that is, it's interesting when you say about nutrition and exercise, because that's something I do talk about quite a lot now. But actually, when you've got a baby, you can't always do that. Yeah. Maybe you're physically not well enough yet, or, you know, you don't have any time for nutrition. You generally don't. So I wish I could just go back and tell myself then just to talk to myself better, because I think that would have had the biggest impact on, like, me and then my children, because of I would have been so much kinder to myself, and that would have come across to them. I mean, like, my daughter asked me the other day, who do you love more, me or you? And I was like, wow, I was really shocked that she's obviously picked up that I talk about how much I love myself and how amazing I am, and like, look at what mummy's doing, like, and that was really nice to hear. I thought, well, that's really good that she's noticed that I do love myself, because I know that 4 years ago nobody would have probably said that, and I really hated myself, and that makes me saddest, I think, looking back, is that I wish I had someone who could have really, like, shook me and said, like, look at what you're doing. Like, you've got twins, you've got a 2-year-old, you're not getting any support from your GP, like, you're in COVID, like, look at you, look at how amazing you are. Because I did not feel like that, and I know that was hormonal, because just that those self-esteem struggles were so massive for me.
Oh, that gave me goosebumps, because that's the ultimate thing we all want to achieve, is to influence and inspire our kids in a positive way, and especially girls. I'm all about, us as women need to be strong and healthy and normalize healthy habits, so that our daughters just know that for themselves, because girls, much more than boys, grow up to lead an inactive, unhealthy lifestyle because of so many things. And so to know that your daughter at such a young age is picking up on self-love is incredible. So I hope you answered it with, I love me more, but of course I love you almost as much.
Yeah, I said, well, I love me more, because if I don't love me, I can't love you.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's amazing. Um, and you and I have talked about this before, which is why we're so aligned in that, you know, this topic of self-care means something so different to what the majority of women think it means. And it isn't about having to do it all. It's about finding what you need most right now and working on that, and knowing that life is an ever-changing, story of seasons. And when your kids are really young, you're probably not going to be able to focus a lot on sleep, for example, but maybe you could focus on, like you say, the mindset and self-compassion and awareness and so on, and maybe a bit of movement. But then as things change, and perhaps you're weaning a young child and then they start eating more solid food, you think, actually, now that I'm feeding them normal food, I'm going to start to look a little bit more at what I eat. And so it's just ever changing, isn't it? So I just want to move on a little bit. I don't want to talk in depth about HRT and obviously pros and cons, which is a whole other topic in itself. But you spoke about the challenges you had getting HRT, even when the doctor had been given this notification from the consultant that you were struggling with POI, and likely therefore the symptoms you had after having the twins were possibly related to the change in hormones and so on. And I know you speak openly as well about the impact HRT has had on you, and you mentioned osteopenia, which, for anyone who's not familiar with that, is a combination of osteoporosis and sarcopenia, which are basically the deterioration of your muscle and your bone strength. So both of those things together. So osteoporosis is the bones and sarcopenia is the muscle. And that's one of the risks of having a premature menopause, isn't it? And so you've invested in taking HRT, but also strength training. I know you've been really committed to trying to use that as a way to build back bone and muscle health. So it's brilliant that you've had that diagnosis reversed. So yeah, just talk a little bit about why it's so important, when this does happen prematurely, to look at HRT as something to support your overall health long term.
Yeah, it's so important for younger women, because we're going longer without our normal hormone levels. So generally they say there are any risks for younger women. Obviously it's an individual thing, but because you're just topping up to what you would have had of your peers. But you're much more at risk of osteoporosis, cognitive decline, and heart disease. And I just think generally it has such a big impact on your well-being and your mental health. It's just so important when you're younger. So yeah, the fact that I couldn't get it for so long, I ended up with the diagnosis of osteopenia, but I have managed to reverse that. And I have been trying really hard with the strength training. I hate exercise as well, so I'm definitely not someone who's like a natural exercise lover. And obviously I've been on HRT now for 3 years, and I take vitamin D. But it was really difficult to get that HRT in the first place, and also making sure you're on the right dose, because otherwise it's not going to have the same benefits.
Yeah, and it's such a shame that you've had that struggle to get the HRT, especially when information was provided about the risks of you going into premature menopause. And for lots of women, who not necessarily early or premature, but who want HRT when they first start to experience perimenopausal symptoms, it's tough for them, isn't it? And so being informed about HRT and how it can benefit you short term and long term, and going to your doctor with that information, is a really important thing to do, and to have that knowledge.
Yeah, it's really important, because
Yeah.
unfortunately, yeah, we have to do so much advocating for ourselves, don't we?
Mm-hmm. So to wrap up the conversation, which has been fantastic, I'd love you to give 3 tips to someone who can, maybe use the information you've provided as a starting point to help them take better care of themselves, especially when it comes to self-care. So just those 3 simple steps to get started with building new habits.
For self-care things, I would say definitely, like we said, just looking at how you talk to yourself, and that's really important as well because your children are watching you. So if you're saying like you hate yourself and you're struggling, or you're showing like menopausal rage in front of them, they are learning this. We need to protect their future mental health, and that's that's everything I've learned as a health visitor, but as a mum, like that's really important. So like if you have to look after yourself because it does impact the children. So yeah, just making sure how you talk to yourself is good. Asking for help. Like, why do we think we can do it all and have it all when we're raising little children and we're menopausal? We absolutely can't. We need help, whether that's paid help, and if you can afford it, you should not feel ashamed of needing it or paying for it, or family and friends. Like, people will definitely want to help. I didn't tell anyone really what I was going through, and a lot of my best friends are mortified now that I didn't tell them, but they couldn't have helped anyway because of COVID. But people do care, and they want to help, and we're not supposed to be doing it on our own. We should have a village around us.
Yeah.
And I would just say that if you are struggling to be heard by a healthcare professional and you're younger, or you've got children and you're normal age, like, please don't give up, because HRT is going to really help a lot of your symptoms if you really want to take it and you're able to. And it's just like a little bit of extra help while you're struggling with everything else. So it shouldn't be anything to be ashamed of. It's really important for your long-term health, especially if you're younger. And everything we do to look after ourselves will really positively impact our children. So that's why I always preach, because we all want to do the best jobs we can as a parent, really.
Well, keep preaching that message, because it is such an important message. We've learned what we've learned from our mums and grandmothers and so on about the horribleness of menopause and how horrendous it was going to be and so on. But we certainly want to write a different story for our children, boys and girls, so that they just grow up knowing exactly what it is, and that it's a stage of life that's going to happen to every single female pretty much, and what that means and how to support, whether it's yourself as a female or it's someone else supporting a partner or family member or friend who are going through it. So I love that you've got that passion and purpose to get this out there, and as you say, support all mothers regardless of what age you're at. It's something that is very, very common, because perimenopause can be around 10 years. I think sometimes some doctors now are even talking about it possibly being longer. And as I said, that the average age of menopause is 51. So thinking some women do go through it a bit sooner than that, regardless of, the early premature menopause. But 10 years before that means you are likely to be in your late 30s even. And that's, as you said, when a lot of women still have quite young children. I'm 48, my daughter's 16, but I have friends around my age who have children as young as 7, 6 and so on. So yeah, it's very common. Well, it's been brilliant to chat with you, Emily, and have you share everything that you're passionate about with the listeners on my podcast. So if people do want to find out more about the work that you're doing, the membership that you've got to support mothers, let them know how they can get in touch with you and reach out.
Yeah, so my website is motheringandthemenopause.com, or on my Instagram, motheringandthemenopause. We've got an amazing community. So if you've got young children, and I haven't put a specific age on that because some people might have like an early teen but really want to be in this community of the mums rather than normal menopause support. Or some people have babies and they're on there. So we've got a real wide range, but the support is absolutely lovely on there. So don't feel you have to struggle on your own. We'd love to have you.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. Thank you.
Thanks,
and yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining today. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please remember to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. It would be massively appreciated if you could leave a rating and review to help other women discover the podcast and build their own healthy, happy life. If you're struggling with the changes perimenopause is bringing your way and you're ready to reclaim your vitality, to embrace this new chapter of your life with confidence and joy, then why not download our free guide, 10 Ways to Feel Good Again, your perimenopausal revival guide. Inside, you'll get 10 proven ways to enhance your well-being and rediscover the joy of living life to the fullest. And we all want to live a great life, don't we? So download your free guide now at lifenowcoaching.uk/feel good again. The link is in the show notes. You can follow Life Now Coaching on Instagram and LinkedIn and visit our website at lifenow.uk. All of the links are in the show description. I really hope you've enjoyed today's topic and conversation and can't wait to have you back again next week for more tips on living healthy and happy right now. Take care.